Satoshi Tajiri, one of the founding members of Game Freak, adored bug catching as a child. He loved the thrill of waiting for the rare bug, the rush of excitement when he found one, the anticipation building before he struck, hoping to catch it. As his collection grew, so did his sense of pride. He wanted to show the world just how special this experience could be, and he found a way to do so through a game he helped design, Pokémon. Yet it would take him and Game Freak decades later to finally realize the full extent of that experience. Pokémon Legends Arceus does something wildly different with the series, evidenced by the game fully committing to the open-world format. Gone are the typical JRPG tropes of past games, the random encounters you can't see, the transition screens to battles taking place on opposing symmetrical lines. Instead, in Arceus, you see the Pokémon in front of you. Your adrenaline kicks in, as you see how rare of a find it is. You get anxious, tension building for the moment you know you need to strike and catch it. With the series no longer hampered with a past game's RPG tropes that would take away from the momentum of the raw experience, Pokémon Legends Arceus finally captures that magic that he and Game Freak have been trying to relay to fans. When speaking to my colleague Gene Park, we both mentioned how thrilling it was to feel this sensation, and to feel like the series was finally, decades later, maturing. Despite the issues with its graphics, Pokémon Legends Arceus was a desperately needed glow-up for the franchise, proving Game Freak was willing to learn and improve its old game mechanics and design. And yet, despite the game's critical reception and how universally adored it seems, there was this nagging feeling we both had, a sense that Game Freak is just knocking on the door instead of blowing it wide open. While Pokémon Legends Arceus is a fantastic new foundation for the series, it's not perfect, and there are several design concepts and lessons Game Freak should consider to create the true dream Pokémon game. I think my colleague Gene Park puts it best, so I'll let him explain from here. He wrote an article expanding on the ideas he'll discuss in this video, so please give it a read if you're interested. Link will be in the description below.
I think Pokémon Legends Arceus is a fantastic game, the most ambitious title in the series' 25-year history, and it's good enough to recommend to any lapsed fan tired of a series that badly needed an upheaval. But as wonderful as the game is to experience right now, there is a sense that Game Freak could really knock it out of the park once you grasp the concepts of good open-world game design. For one thing, Arceus has a breezy, mesmerizing gameplay loop. It's able to improve the classic find and catch loop of the series by adding more collectibles around the environment, all of which can be crafted to make essential Pokemon catching tools. This is all improved by the more tactile nature of the gameplay. Collecting items in past games has always brought up a menu prompt, whereas here, it's just quickly added into our inventory with the tap of a button, all occurring without interruption from the game. This means more skilled players can tear through the landscape. It's the kind of palpable pleasure you might find in a shooting game, except you're trading pets. Secondly, the game loads really fast. In the current generation of consoles, loading times are almost a distant memory, but not so on the Switch. Thankfully, Arceus is an exception. In my experience, the game is able to load most areas in 6 seconds or less. This is a mercy considering how much to and fro traveling players have to do between the game's different regions and the central village hub necessary for trading and crafting goods. It's also got snapping controls. It's an often overlooked challenge in game design, but nailing the feel of 3D controls can be challenging, kind of like making sure a car offers a smooth ride. Game Freak does an admirable job on his first try, as aiming and throwing Pokeballs and items feel snappy. The new controls might take a bit of time to get used to, even for veterans of third-person shooters, but the game will quickly feel intuitive once you start catching monsters in earnest. There's also gravity and weight to consider when throwing the Pokeballs, which add to the skill-based nature of the new catching system. A well-appraised pitch of a Pokeball rewards players with that satisfying pop of a successful capture. Also, the world logic works. It's a relief Game Freak was able to nail this on his first try. There's joy in figuring out for yourself that bug-type Pokemon are in low-lying, warmer locations, and that you probably won't find many populating the snowy mountainous areas. Well, let's start talking about the graphics. Most of the criticisms of the game center around how flat the game feels. And let me illustrate what that means, at least in my experience with the game. There's a location in the game atop a mountain with the iconic Snow Point Temple from the Diamond Pearl games, now realized in a 3D environment. In front of it is a yawning icy lake with an island sitting in a pronounced location at its center. Beyond the vista is Mount Corona, this universe's stand-in for Japan's famous Mount Fuji. None of that sounds particularly flat, does it? The issue here, though, is that none of these locations are visible within each other from the player's location. The world's pathing doesn't lead up to this grand temple in a satisfying way that frames the lake, the mountain, and the structure in any way that feels consistent, natural, and most of all, inspiring to observe. Instead, the player is made to focus only on one object, giving us a lifeless visual made worse by the now infamous low-resolution textures and presentation. Nintendo's own The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild understood this principle. That game's developers anticipated how a player might approach certain parts of the world and ensured that its foregrounds, backgrounds, and overall atmosphere led to this sense of place of wonder, always teasing where the player could go next. Every frame of the game ensured it had something beautiful to witness, whether it was an imposing tree, a castle, or a bright field of flowers. Another thing, the wildlife here are a bit lifeless. Monsters in Arceus only interact with players, and that's only by either running away or preparing and attacking for a fight. Otherwise, these creatures are completely oblivious not only to each other, but to the world around them. They simply fly, float, and crawl about. Pokémon Snap and its sequel provides us the best snapshot into how these creatures behave in their natural habitats. Monsters would bathe, eat, sleep, hunt, and frolic among the environments. It's such a shame that such spirited behavior is missing in the core game experiences. Making a game look pretty is understandably difficult work, especially for a game with a cast of hundreds of unique combatants. But Arceus looks like it could have used a little bit more time to polish, even with the minimalist work being presented. The game already does an admirable job establishing mood and atmosphere with appropriate music in different settings. And the color palette is bright and pleasing with tonal contrasts. A cleaner presentation and graphics would ease players into blissful immersion easily. Still, with Arceus, Game Freak should be commended and rewarded for successfully bringing its winning absorbing game formula to the 3D space. The frustrating and seemingly glacial pace of design evolution aside, Game Freak really has shown the ability to learn from past games, and Arceus really is the right step forward for the series.